Iron John, Part 8. So I'll start off with the poem that I read in the last part. The poem was by Rainer Maria Rilke. My eyes already touch the sunny hill, going far ahead of the road I have begun. So we are grasped by what we cannot grasp. It has its inner light, even from a distance, and changes us, even if we do not reach it, into something else, which hardly sensing it, we already are. A gesture waves us on, answering our own wave, but what we feel is the wind in our faces. But the generous response made by the sacred pond spring depends on a serious, decisive effort made by a man or woman. In our story, that would be the boy's stealing the key from under his mother's pillow, his decision to let the wild man out of the cage and go with him, and his agreement to sit by the spring and try to do the wild man's task. We could say that the boy has learned the difference between secular space and ritual space. Ritual space gives something back to the man or woman who, prepared by discipline and quiet, enters it. Alright, back to the story. The third day. The third day, as the boy sat by the spring, he was determined, no matter how much his finger hurt him, not to let it move. Time passed slowly, and he began gazing at the reflection of his face in the water. He got the desire to look straight into his own eyes, and in doing so, and in doing this, he leaned over farther and farther, all at once. His long hair fell down over his forehead and into the water. He threw his head back, but now all his hair, every bit, had turned gold, and it shone as if it were the sun itself. Now the boy was frightened. He took out a kerchief and covered his head so that the wild man wouldn't know what had happened. But when Iron John arrived home, he knew immediately. "Take the kerchief off your head," he said. The golden hair then came tumbling down over the boy's shoulders, and the boy had to be silent. The boy's hands now remain behind his back. It isn't the hands that reach out now, but the eyes. The eyes begin to search around him, their curiosity perhaps intensified by the intimation that gold is everywhere, mysteriously present even in the clear water. He focuses on his own face, finally on his own eyes. We know that shame often keeps us from meeting other people's eyes or our own. But when we do look into our own eyes, whether we do that staring into a mirror or into a pond surface, we have the inescapable impression, so powerful and astonishing, that someone is looking back at us. Rilke said about his own face in the mirror, "In the arc of eyebrows, some firmness remains from long disciplined and large-browed ancestors. Inside the eyes, the fearfulness of childhood persists, and some blue also, and some lowliness, not a labourer's, but the humbleness of a serving man and of woman. The face carries so far only a suggestion of unity. It has never gathered itself up, either in grief or in ecstasy, for any permanent task, and yet, with all its scattered things, it feels as if someone there were planning a serious labour." That experience of being looked back at sobers us up immediately. If as human beings we have any doubts about the existence of the interior soul, we give up those doubts instantly. When we look in the mirror, someone looks back questioning, serious, alert, and without intent to comfort. And we feel more depth in the eyes looking at us than we ordinarily sense in our own eyes as we stare out at the world. How strange! Who could it be that is looking at us? We conclude that it is another part of us, the half that we don't allow to pass out of our eyes when we glance at others. And that darker and more serious half looks back at us only at rare times. Antonio Machado said, "Look for your other half, who walks always next to you and tends to be who you aren't." The person who gazes in the mirror receives an awareness of his other half, his shadow, or hidden man. Awareness of that hidden man is a proper aim for all initiation. The experience teaches him that the eyes he sees are not just him, but some other man, not included very well under the name his parents gave him, Edward or Lance or Kerry. These eyes belong to some other being whom we have never met. Juan Ramon Jimenez said, "I am not I am this one, walking beside me, whom I do not see, whom at times I manage to visit, and at other times I forget, the one who forgives, sweet when I hate, the one who remains silent when I talk, the one who takes a walk when I am indoors, the one who will remain standing when I die." The one we see in the mirror is complicated, and the glance that takes one moment in the tail could take several years in life. The one looking back is at the same time a man's shadow or dark side, and also his spiritual twin, his white shadow. Rolf Jacobson, the Norwegian poet, calls him your shadow, the white one, whom you cannot accept and who will never forget you. The Gnostics spoke a great deal about the twin, whom they imagined to have been separated from us at birth. The twin remains the spiritual knowledge given us before birth. I think it's supposed to say given to us before birth. The twin, when he or she re-enters the psyche, insists on intensity and seriousness. An adult, for example, might dream that an unknown person has entered his or her apartment, moved things about, taken a jewel away or left one. One man whom I know saw one day, while meditating, a man of light at the end of the corridor, 9 feet tall, with a spear. The man of light approached and said, "If you don't make something of your life, I will take it from you." My friend was then 38 years old. We have been talking of the other one whom we sometimes see when looking into a mirror. In our story, there is no mirror. The mirror is made by nature, or more exactly, it is nature. We could say that the boy in our story has seen eyes looking back at him from nature. The story implies that we, as human beings, are not only source of ordered intelligence and conscious awareness. The eyes in the water can be regarded as an emblem of the consciousness in nature and the intelligence out there. We know that neither consciousness nor intelligence is quite the right word. Human beings invented the word consciousness to describe their own particular sentience, but nature's awareness is not exactly intelligence, nor sentience, nor consciousness, nor awareness. It falls between all the words. Blake said, "How do you know that every bird that cuts the airy way is an immense world of delight, closed by your senses?" 5. I like the phrasing. How do you know but that? Now we need to take one more step. Suppose that rather than describing the intelligence in nature by using an abstract word of delight, rather than describing the intelligence in nature by using an abstract word such as consciousness, or even a phrase such as an immense world of delight, we were to imagine it as a personality. Some anthropologists speculate that the early hunters did just that. The Native American culture is full of stories that describe exactly the glimpse of such a personality. The human tribe and the buffalo tribe get connected through a buffalo chief, or a holy white buffalo declares himself to be both a buffalo and a god. When the hunters do their share of the ritual or task, the buffalo tribe participates in the hunt. We presume that the Native American hunters saw this being, part animal, part god, part human, with their inner eyes, and it seems clear that the artists of the Dogon caves had also seen him. I think it's pronounced Dordogne. Women saw with their inner eyes another being, whom they have called the Great Mother, and we guess that women for thousands of years held small statues of her in their closed palms during childbirth. We can consider the possibility that the boy in our story sees some personality in nature looking back at him, and that is why his head turned gold. We don't know. All the story leaves us with is the image of the boy looking into the water, and we can make of it what we can. It's an odd image. A boy sits by a pond. Most of us recall from Greek mythology the better known scene in which Narcissus sits by his pond. Narcissus has already become separated from his male hunting companions as the story opens. That is interesting in itself. It turns out that Hera is also angry at him and has sent a nymph called Echo who repeats each of his words as soon as he speaks them. Narcissus is bottled up inside his own circuits. When he looks down, he falls in love with his own face. The boy in Iron John's pond, guided or protected by the wild man, does not fall in love with his own face, but sees through the eyes to the consciousness in nature itself. He breaks free, so to speak, from his own circuits, and that is an important difference between the stories. This part is called Going Out into the Wild. We could sum up by saying that when a man has received a glimpse of his own psychic twin, and when he has seen the intelligence in nature, its consciousness or intent, then that man's hair turns gold. He has a golden head. We note that the boy in our story seems very young to have a golden head. We gather from the way he hides it under the kerchief that he feels it is not proper and right to show it. 3 days have passed in ritual time. These 3 days could be 15 years in our time. The initiator gave him a task, and he failed at it 3 times. But he receives a gift anyway each time. The failures rose from the pain he felt and from his human inability to keep attention. But the gift came from the water, with whom he had somehow established a relationship. We deduce that accepting an initiatory task is more important than succeeding or failing at it. We guess that the boy has done all right. Iron John says to him, "You can't stay here any longer because you didn't make it through the trial. Go out into the world now, and there you will learn what poverty is. I see no evil in your heart, however, and I wish you well. So I'll give you this gift. Whenever you are in trouble, come to the edge of the forest and shout, 'Iron John, Iron John.' I'll come to the edge of the forest and help you. My power is great, greater than you believe, and I have gold and silver in abundance." We've seen something of how the wild man behaves in these 3 days by the spring. When we hear the phrase "the wild man," our fantasies move toward a monster or savage. But it is clear now that the wild man is closer to a meditation instructor than to a savage. In part, he resembles a rabbi teaching the Kabbalah. In part, he resembles a holder of a mystery tradition. In part, he resembles a hunting guide. We sometimes assume that contemporary initiation is accomplished by being confirmed or receiving the bar mitzvah ceremony or getting a driver's license. To receive initiation truly means to expand sideways into the glory of oaks, mountains, glaciers, horses, lions, grasses, waterfalls, deer. We need wilderness and extravagance. Whatever shuts a human being away from the waterfall and the tiger will kill him. The Iron John story retains memories of initiation ceremonies for men that go back 10 or 20,000 years in Northern Europe. The wild man's job is to teach the young man how abundant, various, and many-sided his manhood is. The boy's body inherits physical abilities developed by long-dead ancestors, and his mind inherits spiritual and soul powers developed centuries ago. The job of the initiator, whether the initiator is a man or woman, is to prove to the boy or girl that he or she is more than mere flesh and blood. A man is not a machine, only for protecting, hunting, and reproduction. A woman is not a machine, only for protecting, gathering, and reproduction. But each carries desires far beyond what is needed for physical survival. William James praises the number and fantastic and unnecessary character of the human being's wants. The metaphors in the Iron John story refer to all human life, but are turned to the psyches of men. A young man is asked to descend into his own wounds, to climb up into the realm of the twin, and to expand sideways into the consciousness that is in trees, water, animals, and the 10,000 things. When a young man has achieved these 3 realizations or completed these 3 journeys, his hair turns gold. That doesn't solve all his problems. On the contrary, it brings new ones, and that golden head is going to be a problem. I'll leave it there. See you next time.